Hi, Shabbat Tov, everyone. I'm continuing this awesome series of the daily Daf Yomi, and over here on Rosh Chodesh Adar Bet, it is the hulula of a great Rabbi Sadqa Hussein Z'tl from Baghdad, originally one of the great rabbis from Iraq, and his hilula it's going to be here on Rosh Chodesh. And what's very interesting is that he was born in English year 1876 and passed away in 1961, to be precise, to give the full date, February the 17th, 1961. He would later on become an expert mohel, also a prominent Sephardi dayan also, and would later on be the spiritual leader of the Iraqi Jewish community. And later on we'll see that he moves to Israel also, teaching to thousands and thousands of great talmidim in Baghdad, and would later on settle in the Jerusalem neighborhood of Geula. Okay, so let's look at his early life of the great Chacham Sadqa Hussein. Born in Baghdad, this was naturally in Ottoman Iraq. His father was also a prominent rabbi, Rabbi Moshe Hussein, and I believe he was a fifth generation was of the famous Sadqa, Rav Sadqa Bachor Hussein, also who was also the author of a famous halachic responsa called the Sadqa Umishpat also. And in his early youth, he actually learned in the famous Midrash Bet Zilka, which I've spoken about many times before, which was a great yeshiva of that specific day under the great Rabbi Elisha Danjur, also who was also the Av Bet Din of Baghdad. And later on he would study under the famous Ben Ish Chai, who I also related a video on at one stage in time, who would actually count him as among one of the favorite top students of his. So because I think the family were quite well off, he was able to learn pretty much uninterrupted, and allowed him to gain naturally a high degree of Torah scholarship because there wasn't necessarily financial pressures inside in the frame of work which he was in. So he actually founded a Midrash Talmud Torah also, and which was considered the community Haida, the extra, let's say, Jewish curricular place in Baghdad, which accepted many hundreds of students, regardless of the parents' ability to pay tuition. So tuition or pay was not necessarily would have been the barrier to get into such a phenomenal place. And it was also there was different ways of people to support the continuation of the yeshiva, and I think there was also this was partly supported with regards to the butcher's business and meat business also, where they would actually dedicate a lot of the money to it. And it's actually interesting, it's reported over he taught to up to 4,000 children over there. Every evening he gave a shiur Torah in halacha, and many of the balabatim also came, and many of the shiurim would go on for many hours also. And what's interesting, he earned the title Chacham Sadqa also, which he would be known for the rest of his life. It's actually interesting that as a consequence of World War I, the Ottoman Empire lost control naturally of Iraq to the United Kingdom. At first, we know that the material situation of the local Jews improved. The British, who found themselves in control of vastly enlarged empire, needed clerks who were familiar with the local language and customs to help them with their bureaucracy, and found the Jews to be they were quite seen as suitable to this task. The Jewish community would go on and take a commanding role in, let's say, the different various industries over there in Baghdad, especially in the banking and insurance sectors also. And so many young students advanced their education abroad and many people from Iraq at that point in time would even go to Iraqi universities over there at that point in time. So, but this did bring challenges also for the Iraqi Jewish community, because it might have meant less time with Torah studyings, and it might have made people, let's just say, more on the secular wing of the framework, and that obviously conflicted with regards to the Torah institutions, where they would try and advocate a more secular syllabus inside the schools, rather than, let's just say, a full day Torah one over there. And he did not prescribe to it, this great Chacham did. He wanted a strong Torah framework throughout the day for all the for all the students inside this Torah system over there, and didn't necessarily want it to veer off from the Torah framework over there. What's also interesting is that he learned from Chacham Yosef Chaim, the Ben Ish Chai, for many years, and he made a visit over there to Jerusalem. He actually visited Jerusalem in the year 1904 with another great Rabbi Yaakov Chaim Sofer, popularly known as the Kappa Chaim, who we've done a video about before, and also Chacham Yecheskel Ezra Rahamim, who was also nicknamed, I think, the Asay HaYa'ar over there. And they went, I think, to visit Israel over there. And in 1924, finally, him and his family and a few close students over there would later on make Aliyah and settle in Jerusalem, which was part of British Mandatory Palestine over there. And in the year 1929, Chacham Chוצין established the Shemesh Tzedakah synagogue, which was a part of, I think, in the street, Haggai Street, in the Geula neighborhood in Jerusalem, which I would very much recommend people to look and research about. The name of the congregation was derived actually from a verse, I think, that was taken from Malachi, the book of Malachi, in chapter number 3, pasuk 20. And the son of righteous, Tzadka, shall arise with healing its wings. But in fact, Chacham Chוצין both led the synagogue as a rabbi and taught shiurim in the synagogue to students and local and the different balabatim over there also. He also was very much endeavored to fulfill the many mitzvot which we have to relate to in regards to particular the land of Israel itself. And he planted wheat in the backyard of the synagogue, separating naturally the truma and ma'aser within regards to it, and obviously the mitzvot of payah, where he leave a corner of the field for the poor also. What's also interesting, it was reported over that many of the harvests he used for his own, he prepared for matzah within regards to Pesach also, which then he would naturally distribute. He was very, very chesed orientated, very, very greatly chesed orientated. He also, interestingly enough, it's reported over, he kept a donkey for the fulfillment of the mitzvah of the Peteh Hamor also, which was reported over. And it's very, very interesting. Very interesting. He had close connections with many of the Rabbanim. One of his students was Rav Mordechai Eliyahu also, and he was basically very, very broad within regards to the scope of people he was in contact with throughout. He was very. It's actually interesting. He didn't necessarily, if I'm not mistaken, he refused to receive any benefit from his status in the community. He didn't want to take favored positions, even because of his prominent role also. And he did serve as a dayan, I believe, inside the Sephardi Ada Haredit. He was part of that also. And he set up free Torah lectures for the young and also for the old. And what's interesting, he paid tutors out of his own pocket even, or taught the lessons himself. I don't believe, if I'm not mistaken, he didn't charge for it also. He was, as I related over at the start of the video, he was an expert mohel. He was a mohel mumucha also, who was performed circumcisions onto thousands of people. We're talking about, so that's thousands and thousands of people. You know, the amount of work is huge amount of work. It's actually interesting. Before, I think just after his yeshiva studies, he got married to his wife Rabbanit Noam, and who's also, if I'm not mistaken, is a daughter of Chacham Abraham Sadqa, and they had a grandson also. His name is Rabbi Menashe Sadqa, who is reported over to be a pulpit rabbi, actually in Queens in New York. So I'd like to hear from him, or maybe be in contact with him. And the Chacham Chוצין actually passed away he was 85 years old, I believe it was in the English year 1961, and was buried in the Sanhedria cemetery also. And what's interesting is he did have many great students. Let's go through some of the great students he had, because wow, it's an all-star list, including Chacham Yaakov Mutzafi, Rabbi Yehuda Tzadka, also, who would later on become a Rosh Yeshiva in Porat Yosef, Rav Salman Mutzafi, also one of the great rabbis, which I believe I did a video on only a few weeks ago also Harav Yitzchak Nisim, also Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu, also one of the great rabbis, and Rabbi Yehoshua Moshe, also I think also Rabbi Yitzchak ben Abba Shaul, also, if I'm not mistaken. There was Ben Zion Abba Shaul. Rabbi Ben Zion Abba Shaul also was actually one of the students of his. Okay, and what's also interesting, it's reported over in the year 1933, Chochin actually persuaded the father of Rabbi Ovadia Yosef at the time, who was only 12 years old, to send his son to the Porat Yosef Yeshiva, and where he would actually become probably one of the great Sephardi rabbis of the last 1,000 years. We've related that in various videos also. And it's interesting also, he did write a couple of some colossal works also, Torah works, including the Makitz Nedamim, which was a book based on Musar, and the Tzadka Mishpat, which was a shut. Also, and it's Hilula here. It's going to be here in Rosh Chodesh Adar. It is. So please light candles in his memory of the great Chacham. Aleph Adar. It is, to be precise. The precise date of his ruler, Aleph Adar Bet. And he was buried in the Sanhedria Sanhedria in Jerusalem. Inside there also. So please wishing you a great day. It's continuing the series, another famous Iraqi rabbi, and please watch over all the previous videos in this big series over here. Take care, have Shavuot Tov V'rach.